How's it going, everybody? It's Corey with Stoltz Fab. Today we are working on the forklift. This is a late 50s Clark. I'm pretty sure it's a Clark Clipper, but not exactly sure because the information tag is a little worn out. I searched around on the internet, found some pictures and even a couple videos, and it's pretty sure it's a Clark Clipper. Was able to identify the engine at least, Continental F124, which I'm very thankful because I was able to find all the parts I needed on Reliance Power. So it just kind of died on me one day. And I pulled this inspection cover off and realized that this valve wasn't closing all the way. And I put my bore scope in there, and it turns out there was actually a screw under this, on that intake valve. Beautiful. Which I'm pretty sure it has been like that since I've owned it for about 2 years. Because I've never had the spark plugs out, so I don't know how that screw would have got in there. And so this cylinder was at 120, this one was at 0. This one was 120 and this one was 30, which that valve seat down there is not looking too good. So I think since I've had it, it's been running on these 3 cylinders, and this one finally lost enough compression to where it just wouldn't run. So ended up buying new valves for these 2 cylinders and valve seats, which I should have probably went with all 4, but I guess I'm just being cheap. So I got all my valves, valve seats, head gasket along with the other gaskets I need, all from Reliance Power Parts. So let's dive into it. I'm going to start out by getting that old gasket off, getting everything cleaned up, getting all this stuff cleaned up. I got the head over here. Throw that in the parts washer along with the distributor and the manifold. So let's dive into it. So I got everything cleaned up. So now it's time to pull the valves. I'm replacing these valves and seats on this cylinder and this cylinder. So I could not find a valve spring compressor that would fit in these. I tried my little small engine one, but it just didn't work. So I'm gonna modify this C-clamp and make my own. Just gonna cut the end off, make something that has a notch that slides over the spring, and you can compress it, pop it out. These have little pin style keepers, which is super awesome because I was not looking forward to putting the old 2-part clips down upside down in there, so that's gonna be nice. So I'll get that part made and start popping these out. That'll work. Almost done. To go where? Well, I think this is going to work perfect. Fits down on the valve spring. Kind of hard doing one-handed, but outside on the spring, top of the valve. Oh, look at that. It's working. Perfect. So on these, they have that little pin that just pops right out. Just like that. Well, after getting all these springs off, I realized that this one is actually broken. This was on cylinder number 2 exhaust valve. So I went ahead and just ordered all new springs. So I was trying to keep track of all these, but I guess they're all just gonna go in the scrap now. I also found that all of the intake valves had a lot of carbon buildup on them. The 2 cylinders that had good compression, you can see they were seating fairly well, but there's still some spots where you can see there was some carbon interfering. I'm going to go ahead and get them all cleaned up and lap them. Also, I forgot to mention, with that screw being in there, this valve was actually bent. That's why I bought new valves for this cylinder, and went ahead and got new ones for this one too. Well, so we're gonna get them all out, get them all cleaned up, and then we'll start getting the seats out. Also, you can see on these bad cylinders that the exhaust valves had a lot of pitting. Good cylinders are actually looking pretty good. I was kicking myself for not ordering all seats, but I think these other ones will clean up fine. Okay, so without any filler, I'm just gonna go the full circle on the seat, and then I'm just gonna build up a little nub to grab with the pry bar. I got a bead around it, a little nub, and look at that. Hardly even need the pry bar. So it definitely works. Let's get these other 3 out now. Well, I can now say that that's actually a successful way of getting them out. I just gotta get in there, clean them out real good. I don't have a fancy valve seat installation tool, but thinking I'm just gonna use the old valves, obviously not the bent one. Put the seat in. Well, unfortunately, my phone stopped recording when I tapped these 2 seats in. So what I ended up doing was sliding the valve down in there, the old valve, and then I just tapped it down with the old dead blow. It didn't go in super hard, but Took a little bit of tapping. And I seated all the way down to the bottom. Also, the intake seats are too big. They're supposed to be the standard seats, but they do not fit. Hopefully I can find the other ones on there. They did have a couple listed, which I just went with standards, but couldn't find the right size on Reliance Power, so I chucked them in the lathe and turned them down. So I'll show the process of tapping those in. Alright, so now we just got to go through and cut the new seats. Make sure everything's concentric. And then I'm going to also put this cutter in the old valve seats and get them freshened up. And then we're going to go through and lap everything. So let's get that done. stretch here now. Got the valves all ground and lapped. All the surfaces look great. So now I'm just going to go through, put all the springs on and keepers, and then set valve timing. I'm going to set the valves with the head off, that way I can go through and it'll be easier to get everything top dead center. I did get a manual for this engine from Gen Sales. That's where I get all my manuals from. The nice thing is you can actually get a digital download when you buy your paperback. I prefer the paperbacks, but if you need something that day, it's instant, and then your manual comes in the mail 3-4 days later. All right, so I want to go through. Intakes are 12 thousandths and exhaust is 20. So we'll go through and do all that, and then we'll put the head gasket on and go through the torque sequence. Looks like we're torquing to 100 to 110. You want to have the more open coils towards the bottom on these flathead engines. Wow. want to get any screws down there. Well, I mentioned earlier that we were torquing to 100 to 110, but we're actually going to 75. Oh, it's a bigger one, that's right. Three. So firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. So we got 1, which it's at right now. 3, 4. And this one is at 2. Alright, so that should work. Well, I did manage to get everything timed. And before I go any further, I just wanted to do a compression test on each cylinder and make sure they're good before I put everything back together. Alright. The screws are off in the back here. So that one's good, 120. That was one that was at 30 before. Alright, so we got 120 in that one still. So we're at 120 there. Should be good to go. They're all at 120. Well, I got everything put back together and did a test fire. And I just kind of got some pops and sputters and a backfire, which led me to think that the timing is off a little bit. And then I realized that I was totally backwards this whole time. I'm so used to the engine always pointing forward, or this one's pointing backwards. So I was thinking this was number one, but it turns out it's this one. So I got to retime it to that being number one cylinder. Duh. All right, well, you got that timed to number one this time. And before I had the orientation wrong on here too, because it actually spins this way and I had it spin that way. So, moment of truth. Ah, look at that. Awesome. Time to get it slapped back together and get some of this stuff put away finally. All right, well, that wraps up the forklift project. Managed to get it all done with only a small handful of extra parts, but it's running again. Back to forking.